Welcome to the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. Please join me for the flag salute. Roll call, please.
All right, good morning. Sorry, I've got a little echo going on. Excuse me for a minute, you guys.
I know, look at this. Color coordinated.
Okay, sorry about that. Good afternoon, Chair. We'll go ahead and start on this side. Ms. Long?
Here.
Sheriff?
Here.
Chief Pate? Here. Mr. Fierabend?
Here.
Ms. Trent?
Here.
Ms. Campbell?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
And Mr. Cole?
Here.
And I know we have Mrs. Titus and Ron are both absent today.
Okay. Are there any modifications to the agenda? No? Okay. We'll move on to approval of the prior meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes for December 4th, 2025.
Second.
Is that a roll call or, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay, that passes. Okay, public comment on any non-agenda items? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. County Administration Office updates.
All right. I've got a little, excuse me, sorry. I have a presentation that will guide us through this and guide us through some of the meeting as well. All right. There we go. Okay. So the first item to update your committee on is the amount of funding available. Last time we came to your committee in December, we said we had a little over $1.5 million, but as things have shaken out, it looks like we have about $1.65 million. We're going to round that down, so it's a nice, flat, easy number to deal with. So I have $1.65 million to grant out in this fiscal year. Some of the additional revenue just came from expenditure savings from the prior year. And that is all I have for the CAO updates.
Okay. There's no introduction of new staff?
We did that at the last, didn't we do it the last one?
Oh, well, it was on this agenda. Okay, discussion items. Do I have the wrong agenda?
Maybe, because that wasn't on there.
Are you looking at the minutes, maybe?
No, because this is the one that was sitting right here. It says selection of chair and vice chair. But it has all of the,
That's last time.
it has all the charts in there.
Top page.
Okay.
Top page.
Oh. Oh, maybe that's what I was looking at. Oh, okay. Okay, discussion items. Finalize applications for fiscal year 2026-27 and authorize release of applications.
Yes, so thank you for that. So I do just want to draw your attention to the draft application that is in your packet. It's directly after the minutes. We have added 2 questions to the application. Question number 6, we'll be able to put that up on the screen, thank you. We thought this was a good question in light of discussions that this committee has had in the past about where and which populations are being impacted. So the question for number 6 is which geographic areas and populations will be served by the project? I feel like that was an idea that this committee has been kind of revolving around for a while. And then question number 12 is another item that this committee has been dealing with for a while. It's about partial funding for the applications. And so it's asking the applicants to say, at what point is the application ineffective if it receives partial funding? And so we're asking the applicants to detail that. And you'll note that there's a piece at the end. How does it describe, how does it change the scope or the outcomes? And I feel like that's a good piece of information for this committee to get. The rest of the application stays the same as in years past. We'll be doing a digital application for people to send this in. And so that is what I have for your committee on this.
Anybody have any questions on this? Okay.
Is there any reason or is there any chance that we can extend it to the end of the month? I know some districts have to get approval to submit applications, and if the application close period comes in the middle of the month or the beginning of the month, sometimes they can't get that in for those meetings. So.
The time frame that this application period is open is up to you. I think the end of the month is probably the latest that we would want to do it because we are pushing up against budget time. Last year, you all went through your ranking process in 2 meetings. If we could kind of aim for that again and be done by early to mid-March so that we could get our pieces done to incorporate into the budget, that would be super helpful. So if long answer, I think if we extended it to the 27th, is that what you're kind of thinking? February 27th, and then we would come back. Right now we have a 2-week span that would put us in the middle of March. I would really need this committee to kind of drill down and get this thing done in probably 2 meetings if we did that. And I'm dependent on you, Sheriff.
Yeah. I'm holding my tongue, sorry. It's good.
Other questions from committee? Okay.
So I'm sorry. I have a question. So do you need a full 2 weeks, or, if we said, hey, what about a week turnaround?
We could get the applications. So the only problem is giving you all enough time to review the applications.
You have to put it on a notice, right? Give us the applications with reasonable time.
We get all the applications, correct, on Friday.
Right.
It would close that day. And then we have to get an agenda pushed out by Monday at 2:00. And that's pretty lightning fast turnaround to do that. On top of, this committee would only have a few days to actually review the applications. And I know that, some committee members have talked about having applications laid out on the floor and, this and that. Mm-hmm. So it's up to you. We could try our darndest to get an agenda pushed out by Monday. Maybe if we do if we could do like a Thursday, a 26th deadline that Thursday, and then we could spend Friday getting our packets together and all the applications together. That would help us out from a staff point of view.
Could you, deferring to you here, Nick, would meet in the middle, right, with 13th, move to the 20th? Like, does that help, or is that still not enough? I understand you want.
Yeah, it helps, but most grants, the shortest you're going to see is going to be a month at least. So that is a quick one. If you're doing a smaller request, 20,000 versus 2 million, then obviously you could get it knocked out in a week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anything would help. Any extra, then we're pushing into less than a month for that, so.
Yeah, and through the chair, I think if the latest we could do would be probably the Thursday, the 26th, and I still think that we could get this committee back out the next week, and then start that process and
Okay.
be done by the, second week in March.
Okay. We'll open public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this?
Maybe not on that one, but on Kamau and the ambulance services up in Humboldt County? Is this time or
That'll be probably the next item.
next item? Okay, I'll wait one.
Okay. Is there any online? No? Okay, so what is the, anybody, do we need to make a motion on that, don't we?
So if we wanted to make a motion to change the application date and the time frame, that would be good. I would also note that the application on here says that 1.75 million is available, but as I just said, it's 1.65. So we'll make that technical correction. But if
Okay.
you do want to change the application dates, that would need to be part of the motion.
And what was that date that you took?
Thursday, February 26th.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the application as is, with the exception of changing and extending the application deadline to Thursday, the 26th of February.
Second.
Is that,
We could just do an up-down
okay.
vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay. It passes. Okay, we'll move along to review recommendations of the Measure Z Ad Hoc Committee regarding the update spending plan.
Okay, and I am having some trouble connecting this. I still have this part of my presentation, but I feel like I can still go through it with you all. So the last meeting, excuse me, the last meeting, this committee was introduced with the idea of approving a new 3-year spending plan. Just to level set, currently we are in the middle of a 3-year spending plan that sets automatic allocations against a $13 million budget. So there are county agencies that receive money as detailed in your packet. There are community partners that receive funding automatically outside of any application process, up to $13 million. That spending plan ends in fiscal year 26-27, so next year. We were considering a spending plan that begins in fiscal 27-28, runs through fiscal 29-30. Your committee asked an ad hoc of Chair Trent and Vice Chair Fierben to go through and look at ways to rejigger some of the spending plans, especially in light of Public Works $400,000 ongoing allocation being taken out of Measure Z, the spending plan. What happens with that money? Committee got together with staff a couple times over the holiday break and has come up with a couple options here before you. I will note that option number 1 was the top option recommended by the ad hoc here. And just to go through some detail, let me see if I can get my screen back up now. All right. Okay. Can we see that? Perfect. So this is our current spending plan here. You can see all the allocations. You all are pretty familiar with this, I believe. Going into option number 1, the highlighted fields are the ones that change here. So if we're looking at what happens with that additional $400,000 from Public Works, these are some of the places where the ad hoc is recommending that that funding be reallocated to. So to start off, because the Fortuna's school resource officer continues to be one of the top ranked applications, the thought is to pull 200 of that $400,000 and give that additionally to Fortuna. So that would fund their drug task force agent and the school resource officer. Bring fire up to $1 million automatically each year. And then down on the county departments below, these allocations are different than are what in the current spending plan. If you just want to quickly kind of compare, district attorney gets 1.68 million, probation 625,000, sheriff 6.75 million. DHHS, I'll go into a little bit detail on this, is at $937,000 here. This recommended spending plan gets county departments to about 5% below what their projected need is. Our staff, we looked at the current staffing levels and current expenses of all of our county departments, and we projected out what their needs would be based on rising salaries, rising health insurance costs, rising cost allocation stuff. And so we have figures that we came up with, and all of these figures in the yellow highlights are 5% below, 5.2% below what their expected need is. And so the thought is that if the allocations are 5.2% below what their projected need is, because these are larger departments, there are ways that they can still fit their expenditures within that budget by holding positions vacant or by holding off on some other expenses. It's similar in the ways that they've done with the current spending plan. And so there is an additional condition here that we prioritize getting the fire chiefs up to $1.5 million before getting any money out for applications. So in this scenario, there would be 27, you see in the applications line, it says $527,000. 500 of that would go directly to fire without an application process. And we would start off with $27,000 and then depend on one-time money to get our application pool a little bit higher. So that's option number one. There's a lot in there, but that is the preferred option of the committee, or the ad hoc. Option number two is a little bit different. We would take the $200,000 again, go into Fortuna for their school resource officer position, provide an additional automatic $200,000 to fire, and then Health and Human Services, their haircut is a little bit less than what it was before, but everybody else's allocations stay the same as what it is currently. I will say back on option one and option two, in light of this committee's stance that you all are looking to get the ratio of Measure Z expenditures to the 70-30 mark, 70% to county, 30% to community partners. This option gets us at about 82% automatically to the county, 18% to outside partners. When we factor in the one-time money, I think this will get us to about 77, 78% to county, and then 22, 23% to partners after we factor in the one-time money. The option number two gets us started at 80-20, 80% to county, 20% to partners. After the one-time money comes in and we do the whole grant round, I think we would typically get to around 75-25 here. So none of these options gets us to the 70-30 mark. It's incrementally one way or the other. The third option is the status quo option, which is keeping everything the same. I will say in the staff report, I mentioned that the additional, so this would essentially, this graph shows that all of the additional public works allocation, $400,000, goes to the fire chiefs. That was an assumption on my part. That wasn't vetted through the ad hoc. So that is still kind of a decision point for the committee to make if you all want to discuss this status quo option more. This option still gets us, starts us off at about 80-20 ratio. And again, when we get the one-time money in, I think we would be typically around 75-25. Those are all projections, but that's based on past activity. I think that's where we could assume we would end up. And so with that, that is my staff report on there. Be happy to answer any questions.
Dylan, would you like to add anything to that?
Questions first, or you want me to?
I have a question.
Either one.
Okay. So looking at this here, you have.
Do you have your microphone on?
Oh, is it on? Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Looking at what are their current plan here, and then I noticed that Gamal has not had any increase on their portion. I remember when I first got on, and a lot of you weren't on here yet, but when I first got on, there was a discussion about the money. We weren't sure what was actually what was available. So we asked, at the time, some of these people to cut back, and Gamal did cut back. But since then, everybody got their, excuse me, everybody got their money back, but Gamal didn't. Gamal always stayed the same. So that's my question, is why, you know, why is that?
Yeah, when it comes to that, Kamau specifically, when it comes to the spending plan, we were looking at, when we made these decisions on kind of the new spending plan, the only increases we made on the community partners were the two options that are historically been always funded. The SRO officer has been the #1 pick, and they've been funded year over year. So instead of making them come here and fill out an application and wasting their time and our time for something that has been proven year over year to be funded, we went ahead and advised to fund that permanently in the initial part. They don't have to fill out an application. Additionally, with fire, the idea was as well, I think last year they had roughly $1 million, and then they got an additional $1 million. By going to the 1.5, we're giving them the option, if they felt like their budget could handle that, they don't have to fill out an application. Of course, if they feel like they still need additional, they can fill out an application as well. So that is why we only kind of adjusted those two, as opposed to adjusting all of them when it comes to the county partners, just based off of the historical actions of this committee, given the money available. Kamau hasn't been filing an application for additional funds. They've had the current funds that they've been filed consistently year over year for that number. And so it really wasn't considered. I think also there may be, and somebody else could probably speak to this more so than I can, the discussion of one-time money for a handful of applications of in the past that have been funded more than one time. And I think that is something that will probably be discussed further as we get into it. But as far as just the budget plan itself, we were looking at trying to simplify the application process from applicant standpoint and our standpoint of cutting down on work and applications that have been historically funded and focusing on the ones that are kind of up for debate, as well as not giving, I think, people a false hope. Like right now we have, you know, as it sits there, 1.65. If we go with recommendation #1, that number drops down to basically was like 800, I believe. We were talking, was somewhere right around there.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So at least from my perspective, that it gives people a more realistic approach when they walk in the door with an application. If I fill out an application and come in here and ask for 30,000 and there's 1.6 available, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances. But if you look at where large chunks of our money typically go, they get, you know, 200 to SRO, you know, last year $1 million to fire. We had then a couple of other PDs, Riadel PE, PD, Eureka, and that number quickly chopped down to basically 300,000. So I think by kind of circumventing and just moving past some of that stuff, we make it more realistic for the applications that we're debating over, and they have a more realistic understanding of, well, there's only 600, 800,000 available. It might be a little tighter. You know, I might, you know, I'll still come up and give my pitch, but probably a little more understanding that, you know, everybody's asking for something, and it's, not as big of a pot as it seems. I feel like it's a little bit of an illusion, the pot that we present. In reality, we're largely spoken for. So we're trying to cut that down and make it look just a little more realistic to what's actually available for applications that this committee historically more debates, as opposed to just automatically funds for the most part.
I see we do have Gamal here, and I would like Gamal to be able to explain to you guys what Gamal has to go through just to provide ambulance service over on the other side of the hill. Because it's different for ambulance service here, locally here, because you don't have to go over the hill, you don't have to go down, you don't have to go into the river. Those types of, and the quicker response time is really a big difference, and so.
When we get to
If we
public
could-
comment, then they'll
okay.
get to speak.
Yeah, no, that's, and the key note here, and I think I kind of touched on it, just because everybody still has the ability to file an application. So whether it's, like fire, they can still fire one come out, that anybody can still apply for additional funding. This doesn't by any means say that because we're giving you a certain one-time money or a set amount that you can't ask for more. So,
I don't think they had that understanding.
Okay, yeah,
So-
so by all means, no, that is, for anybody that feels they fit the guidelines of Measure Z, they can fill out an application and request additional funds, and then we can debate it.
I kind of have a comment I want to add in on this one. We're experiencing a very volatile, uncertain time as far as economic spending and revenue combined with inflationary factors in both personnel expenses and in just cost of goods. I'm really uncomfortable with adding positions to a guaranteed we're going to fund this list within that climate. I kind of feel my responsibility is to look at Measure Z from a stance of what are its priorities, how do we provide those services, and for me it starts enforcement response, fire response, ambulance response, and unfortunately the measure is so big. There are so many other aspects that continue to fall after those services are mentioned. I want to be cautious about really identifying funding for services outside of that scope, of those top to that emergency response scope, especially within our current environment. And I needed to vocalize that, and I feel like if we're looking at that $400,000 from a committee point of view, we need to be able to make recommendations to the board based on what the applications are coming in, and those priorities may change compared to what the priorities were in the past. I'm uncomfortable with saying our past priorities will become our future priorities, and I needed to vocalize that for this committee.
Go ahead, Sue.
Dylan, you touched on something. Sean, could you clarify if we, like option one, Dylan said if we do that, then out of our 1.6, we only have 800,000? Is that what I'm understanding?
So this spending plan would not begin until fiscal 27, 28. So that would be not next year, but the year after. So it's layering this over. If this was the current state for this year, then we would have around $800,000 or so to go towards the applications if this scenario was in place.
In which fiscal year?
To award for 26, 27.
Okay, so that's option one. What would we have with option 2 and 3 then?
So option 2, sorry, I didn't necessarily do that. Option 2, not quite sure. I think we would have around 1.6. I think it would be around the same, but I haven't run that exactly.
It should be right around there because we're basically just reallocating that 400,000 in option 2.
So I'm not following you guys. Are we having 800,000 if we make this change, or are we having 1.6?
If the money we have available for this year, which the spending plan we're talking about is for future years, but hypothetical, it stays the same. The 1.6 available is before we fund any of these additional monies going towards, like right now we have 500,000 in applications. Well, actually, you guys don't have that option. Let me see here. What have we got here? That 1.6, we would throw an additional 500,000 towards fire, so then it's 1.1, an additional 200,000 to the SRO for Fortuna, and that's what, 900,000 essentially is what we're looking at there. And then also there's a slight, so at 115,000 to our county partners as well. So then therefore we're right around 800,000 for applications available. Last year we were 1.3 available. I said fire took $1 million of that right off the top. So then there was, so we're just trying to, we can definitely clean up the verbiage and try to make it cleaner. We are trying to move past the, I wouldn't say the obvious, but things that I said this committee has always done. And Nick, to your point, I agree with you with your stance on what's important. And I feel like that option does support that, and the fact that we're, emergency response SRO, right? And that is the whole Wheel River Valley. It's not just Fortuna. They're based out of Fortuna, but they serve the whole Wheel River Valley. Additional money goes to fire, which emergency response, and then there's some additional funding to help bridge the gap for county as well. Because right now, I think the status quo, the deficit is around 11% for all counties, county departments that we're funding right now. By throwing a little bit more money with that pool, we are trying to help get that to 5.2. So we're trying to shrink that. It's going to get bigger each year due to inflation and just naturally how costs go up. But we're trying to keep in mind all those emergency response things that you spoke on there. So I do think that it does help cover that and address that. And all these numbers are basically on a flat line of revenues. I think during the ad hoc committee, we spoke about there is some indications from the counties, the evidence they have that there's maybe a slight uptick in revenues, but for the most part, they've been flat. And because of the uncertainty, we don't want to project that revenues are going to increase. They haven't for a while. They've been very flat. So all these numbers are based off of where revenues have been the last few years, despite there's evidence that it might tick up a little bit. It's probably not a material enough amount to warrant making any changes to the allocations beyond this. So we are trying to be conservative with the number and the money we have, with the hope that things do turn around in the next, even before we get to this fiscal year, these budgets here, maybe things change and the economy does better and there's more money available, giving people some more breathing room, more application money available. So I think it's a conservative approach as far as the amount of money available. We didn't increase it. We're still keeping to where we're at in case revenues don't increase. And then additionally, we're trying to focus and get some of that money directly to the people that help make this community safe and help them continue those roles without forcing them to come here and have an application.
My point, I guess I was trying to make, was that when we started this, before we even went into the base budget, that's when we were asked, some of the departments here were asked to cut back, and everybody did, including Gamal. But when the money came in, there was more, we found that there was more money left over. They got their funding back, everybody except for Gamal. So that was my question, is why didn't Gamal get their original funding back when everybody else got their funding back except for Gamal? And so Gamal has been at this 325 for a long time now. With the cut that they took, they had to voluntarily cut back because we didn't know what the funding was going to be.
I think that's a question for the board. The Board of Supervisors is the one that makes the final decisions. We only make recommendations. And I think that's something you need to hear.
So, go ahead, sorry.
I want to, the reason I'm more concerned I don't like to speak about specific applications, but in this instance of including the SRO position, historically, this committee has had funded many different programs with municipal partners. And we had been able to support CSED and MIST within Eureka. We supported SROs in multiple different municipalities. I'm concerned that the message we're sending is there will not be any opportunity for you in the future. And I think that's another part of my concern is by elevating that position, not that it's not warranted and we don't prioritize it, but it removes opportunities for others to participate when in an era where support is needed.
I just want to clarify those numbers. So you basically started with the 1.6, you took out, which included the 400,000, took that out, took out additional for the fire, took out additional for the county employees, and that's how we get down to the 800,000.
If I could, it's, we would have about $1.17 million for applications under option 1, 1.65 million under option 2 and 3.
And the difference is the 500,000 to the
That
fire
500,000 going up to fire.
department. Thank you. That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, we'll open public comment. Anybody would like to speak on any of these?
My name is Ryan Zamora. I'm the CEO for Kamal Medical Center. Stood here last year and we talked about budget and potential the reduction in budget. And I have to say I appreciate everybody's response and help through the years with Measure Z and the funding that's been provided. Last year we took we agreed to about $100,000 cut to the ambulance service. Up in Hupa recognized that it is an Indian agency that operates an ambulance service off reservation. From about 10 miles north of Willow Creek all the way down to close to Sawyer, we operate an ambulance up in the Willow Creek area with increasing number of calls through the years, AMA calls, and of course the support and of the ambulances themselves. Want to put something out there is there's always that perception that Indian Health Services provides lots of money for Indian services and Indian healthcare. They provide $0 for very specific things. $0 for the ambulance. There's no funding. I've sat through that compact this last year in Sacramento and they're very clear. Just did the budgeting down in Sacramento. They said absolutely not. There's probably 30 tribes there asking for emergency services. So they do not provide that. They do not provide also for dialysis. Those are a couple of the main things on Indian reservations that are very prominent in a need. So for us, operating the ambulance up into Willow Creek, with the costs, the services, the amount of rides, the drive time, I've operated ambulances in big cities. The turnaround time is really easy. You're 15 minutes, drop off, and you're back at base. Here we have an hour and a half, often that turnaround. By the time we drive over the hill, the hour over through all the construction, drop them off, turn around, come back. Sometimes we're 2.5 to 3 hours in total drive time. And that pulls our ambulance out of Hupa to cover up in Willow Creek area. Running 4 ambulances, our maintenance costs, we're running around $200,000 in maintenance costs, and it's increasing every year. We also put over 100,000 miles on every one of our ambulances a year, where when I operated in ambulances in the city, I'm looking at maybe 20,000 miles. They're real short pings back and forth. So our maintenance costs are significantly higher than operating typically in the city area. And we definitely appreciate for fire, law enforcement, everybody, we all have that need, but those are some of the basic needs in the area. For us, we're asking if there's any room that sits in there in the wiggle, if we can move that budget back to that closer to that 400,000 where we were to be able to help operate. The maintenance, the overall running is pretty significant. What Measure Z provides in there is a small drop in the bucket of the overall cost for the ambulance service up there, but it does help. It helps us maintain that depot station in that area.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Yep.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other comments?
Well, committee, I'm Russ Brown. I'm the fire chief at Fortune. I'm also the current president of the Humboldt County Fire Chiefs Association. Sean, if you could pull up what the current is, the current spending plan? He's ignoring me.
For your 3-minute purposes, I think it's about 975,000 that's currently being
I
allocated.
know, I want, there's a visual I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, because it's, you know. So we can stay with option one, because I'm going to hit next, where you see that the yellow highlighted thing says that that's changed for us. Now go back to what it currently is. It's less. It's not less by much, less by 6,000 one year, 6,000 the next year, and maybe $25,000 more this year. So if we're just starting off with option one saying fire is getting more, no, we're actually getting less than we got on the previous 3-year plan. Because you float this $500,000 out there, but unless that $500,000, unless it says 1,500, you know, who's guaranteed us that 500? Because that makes a big difference on what plan I want to support, and where that $500,000 automatically. I mean, that's a recommendation you guys are making, but that's a, you know. So you're asking fire to consider one of these 3 options, and one of them is maybe we'll give you $500,000, and maybe the board will approve that, as opposed to, you know, it's really hard to get me away from option 3 where I just take all the money on option 1 where it says I might give it to you, and you might get a little bit more. So I'm just wondering how that money, you know, why not just put that money up there on that line item for fire instead of saying, I mean, I love the idea. I would rather know that I've got a number to work with than different, but I'm wondering why didn't we just add it in there and say we're just going to give fire 1.5 million?
I don't want to waste your time if you got any more to add there.
No, I got nothing.
Okay. You want to go first, Sean?
After we do public comment, because we don't usually do kind of a back and forth, but I would have something to say about that.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
So to the point about why wouldn't we just add that extra $500,000 into any category? To Mr. Cole's point about this being a volatile revenue source, having it in that application line where nobody is relying on it gives us a little bit of buffer in the budget. It's a $13 million budget, $500,000 kind of buffer there, plus we have the $864,000 in reserve right now. The idea is that if we get to a point before fiscal 27-28, we feel good that we're going to have that our revenue is going to be at 13 million, that $500,000 would go automatically up to fire. If activity is going lower and we're feeling worse about our projections, say that we think that we're going to get 12.8 million, then $300,000 would go automatically up to fire, and then we wouldn't have an application period open, type of thing. So that is the reason for not automatically putting it up there, because that is a bit of budget buffer. But once we feel good about our numbers, that 1.5 million, we would automatically get fire up to that 1.5 million. Does that make sense?
And would fire know that before the application period?
Absolutely.
I think just the last point of clarification on that is that typically, as you saw, the 1,006,000, 1,006,975, that number is not changing. That base is not changing. Last year, essentially, during the application process, fire applied for an additional million. They were awarded that. So the base isn't changing. What we're saying in that 1.5 is that once that money starts rolling in and we see what we have right off the top, that 500,000 goes to fire, and then they still can file an application before. So we're trying to get you, when we know what we have, it's trying to get fire more money up front, which we would know before the application started. So the million wouldn't change under option 1, 2, or 3 as far as your base. Option 1 just says that when we start having that money roll in and we know we have money above everybody's base allocation, that money starts going to you, the fire, first before it goes anywhere else. That's what option 1 is saying.
Sheriff?
Before we move on, I don't want to change the subject if we want to talk more about fire, but I just want to point something out here that you're freezing all the county lines, okay, and Sean just discusses it's a 5% reduction. So what 5% does to the sheriff's office is about $350,000. We have 41 positions tied to Measure Z. And so we're going to have to, and we've cut out all the fluff. The county has cut our general fund. So we rely on this to staff patrol deputies. And so when we have to see that this fund is now short $350,000, because costs are escalating, we have to look at cutting. So we're going to have deputy sheriffs be cut because this committee decided that instead of using the county's allocation of $400,000 for county business, we're going to push that out, to other entities. Believe me, I'm all for the SRO. I'm all for supporting fire, but I also have to advocate for the county positions in the sheriff's office. So just for everyone's consideration, just we can talk about an options here, but by freezing again the county line, we have escalating costs, and I'm gonna have to do something with the $350,000 that I'm not gonna get this year. Just so we know.
Were you included in those meetings to talk about all this?
No, I wasn't.
Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but option one actually does not freeze that line. It increases it from the status quo, does it not?
That's correct.
Yeah, so we did take that into account. We understand, I think the original deficit was going to be roughly
10.
Yeah, and we're trying to so it was, the committee did take it under consideration.
We did talk about the sheriff's department, and we don't want cuts there.
Yeah.
And that's why in option one, it makes less of, your budget is higher than what it is.
I appreciate that, but just want to again recognize that we're talking about public works money. This is designated for the county, $400,000. So why wouldn't that $400,000 just go right back into the county allocation?
The reason why it didn't go straight there was trying our best to not skew those county partners versus county department ratio any more than it already is, all the while understanding, being that revenues are flat, we're not going to get to 70-30 without a change in increase in revenue. So I think that, we're kind of hoping 80-20 is kind of where we're at until revenues change, hopefully for the better. No guarantee on that, but that was really the thinking there, is not so much to not, it was trying not to skew that ratio even further the wrong direction.
Okay.
So
Option one puts the most back into the county than any of the other options.
I recognize that.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other? Okay.
Just to confirm that the county offices can put in for applications too? I don't think we saw any last year besides the public defender.
Correct. Yes.
Is it true, though, in the past, I did believe we made a statement saying that we were not going to be really evaluating any position-based county applications?
That's correct. This committee has taken a stance that you don't want to add any ongoing obligations to this fund from the county side. And at the same time, the committee has also said if there is a budget shortfall that a department is facing, that they are welcome to fund that with the understanding that this is one-time funding. It is not additional positions. It is to cover existing expenses.
So that would be a tool, for example, that
Yes.
the sheriff could use to bring an application
Correct.
for us within that viewpoint. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, so
if there's no other comment, I would make the motion that we approve recommendation 1 as our new budget for the upcoming 3-year budget plan.
Second.
okay, we're going to do a voice vote on this?
Yes. All right. And, okay. We will start over with Mr. Cole,
No.
Ms. Miller,
No.
Ms. Campbell. Yes. Ms. Trent,
Yes.
Mr. Fierben,
Yes.
Chief Pape,
Yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
and Ms. Long.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 6-2.
Okay. So is that all we needed to discuss? Are we looking,
That is all we have today, Chair.
okay. Then I guess it looks like a meeting adjourned.
All right, we will see you back here at the end of February.
Thank you.